everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. Before we begin our conversation on the program tonight, let's tell you that the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice Abba Kyari SAN said that the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari has not been exonerated from his involvement in the alleged money laundering with Rahman Abbas, popularly called Hush Puppy. This follows reports in the media that Kyari had been cleared from the allegations by the Office of the Attorney General. In a statement by his media aide, Mr. Umar Gwandu, Mr. Malami says that his work in progress, of which the Office of the AGF requested for further probe in relation to some aspects of the investigation. The statement adds that the media reports show a misunderstanding and misconception of the issue, as their stance is that no conclusion has been reached in the direction of absence of evidence relating to the first report. The issues were raised for further investigation with a view to cover the field in investigation and arrive at an informed decision. That's what part of the statement read. And based on an indictment by the FBI, the police set up a panel to probe Mr. Kyari. The first report from the Office of the AGF to the Inspector General of Police had stated that the evidence contained in the case diary had no link between Abba Kyari and Hush Puppy in the $1.1 million internet fraud. Malami had admitted there were prima facie evidence against Kyari, adding that extradition moves are ongoing in the matter. Tonight, we shall be speaking with on the issue of state of the nation and much also on politics. And our attention is on the state of the nation in respect of the few queues that you see across the country, the issue of fuel subsidy, security situation in the country, and the view of the 2023 general elections, and the kind of leaders that Nigerians should be looking out for. Well, my guest tonight is a medical doctor who trained at the London Hospital Medical College of the University of London. He was governor of Kwara State for 2 terms, from 2003 to 2011. He later became senator representing Kwara Central Senatorial District, and on his second election into the Senate, he became the 13th president of the Nigerian Senate. Is the son of the former lawmaker of the Second Republic, the late Olushola Saraki, who was popularly referred to as Oloye in Kwara State and beyond. Tonight, Dr. Bukola Saraki is my guest on the program. Thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I think we should begin with from the areas that are perhaps what some people would call your strength area. You were in the Senate, and as a Senate president, the issue of Electoral Act amendment, you've seen president who did not pass and not sign, and you've seen president who have signed. So let's begin the conversation. And I'd like to begin on the proposition of President Buhari It was asking for the amendment of Section 84, subsection 12. I'm very sure a lot of Nigerians may not even be aware of what that section talks about. Let me show Nigerians what that section talks about. Basically talking about political appointees and whether or not their participation in primaries and convention. And it clearly states how they can participate and what they can do, basically saying that political appointees cannot vote in a convention, Section 84, subsection 12. But let me take you back to what happened on the floor of the Senate, where there was a debate about that when the president proposed. Okay, so there you go. Section 84, subsection 12 says, it reads, no political appointee at any level shall be a voting. Okay, where did I go again? Goodness gracious. All right, let me allow you to listen. So it's back right now. So it said, no political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of the nomination of candidates for any election. That is a contentious section of the subsection of the Electoral Act 2022, which the president wanted the National Assembly to amend. But it went to the National Assembly, read president's letter, and these are the reaction of the senators, basically killing that proposition on the floor of the Senate. Take a listen to the debate.
Interpreted by the executive arm of government as introducing qualification and disqualification criteria that are ultra-violating the Constitution by way of importing blanket restriction and disqualification to serving political office holders.
We don't need to be told that if we want to
run for office and we are appointed into an office, that we have to resign. That is a sine qua non that we don't even need to debate. Yet, here we are today in Nigeria, and people think that they can sit in an office and contest an election and become candidates and continue to sit in that office until the date of election.
No political party shall seek to disqualify anybody by importing into the process a provision for qualification or disqualification not otherwise provided for in the Constitution. It is there at the beginning. I believe that's section 84, section 84(2).
Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay.
There you go, Nigerians. You've seen it, you heard it. Basically, when that is voted out, I'm not sure how that will play out when it gets to the House of Reps, because if, in terms of amendment, it has to be a concurrence from both seats, from both National Assembly floors. But let's get the view of Dr. Saraki on this one. Is it right, is it fair to not allow political appointees to be part of the process, like convention, primaries, and all of that, as captured in this section? If you can put out that section again so that we can look at it. Section 84, subsection 12.
Well, John, let me first, I must commend the Senate for doing the right thing. What is the right thing? Is to make laws generally for the good of the nation. That's what they did. That action they took is in the right interest of the majority and its good interest for our democracy and for the country. If a political appointee who wants to contest, has a burning desire to go and vie for election and represent his people, then he must be ready to resign and go and contest. To sit in office with undue advantage of that office is totally unacceptable. It is not fair to others. So there's nothing, none of their right has been taken. They can still resign and go and contest. Why must they want to sit in office and do that? To me, those are the things that really does not help us in building this democracy and good governance. So they did the right thing in killing that bill at the level that it did, where it didn't even go to the second reading. And you can hear it was unanimous. It was across party lines. So National Assembly members, senators, again have shown the maturity and the fact that when you go into that chamber, you think of Nigeria. You don't think of just your political party, because you're now representing those that voted for you and those that didn't vote for you. And you're asking yourself, is this in the interest of this country? What they did is in the interest of this country. Even those that are saying that know that this is best for this country. And you've got to commend them. Talking about the House of Representatives, as you suggested, they would do the same thing, because it is what is right.
But let's take a very critical look. You have been a political appointee. You became an elected governor. And so you will understand if all of the ramifications. But will it be fair? And I'll give vivid example.
Sure.
For Babatunde Fashola, for example, who was a governor of Lagos State, that would not be allowed into the arena to be a delegate at an APC convention. Would that be fair? Would that be fair on the likes of George Akume, who was a former governor, a former senator, and not be allowed to go into the arena at the convention? If you switch and go into your political party, and you look at those who are being in power, those who are political appointees in the PDP government, and not be able to go into the PDP convention or the PDP primaries and be able to be a delegate, is that fair on them?
It's not saying they cannot be.
But that's why I asked the question whether or not it be fair.
They must, if they want to participate,
they have to resign.
Then they have to resign.
No, if you want to go to a convention as a political appointee, I mean, at that level, if you have gotten to that level, for example, if you are a political appointee today, being a former Senate president, be a two-term governor, would it be fair for you not to be able to participate in a primary? I mean, or a convention of the party?
I think you have to look at the bigger picture. The point you're making is to try and create a level playing field. Let me give you another example. That's a good example. What about a 22-year-old boy, young chap, who wants to vie into politics, who wants to get elected for House of Assembly or House of Representatives, and he's contesting against the Director of Finance and the Ministry of Petroleum? And you're trying to encourage young people. You're trying to tell them that this is not a rigged system. This is something that allows you, it's a level playing field. And he's using his position of influence. What chance does he have? What chances are we creating for the young who wants to truly develop the inclusion? That's what I mean by the bigger picture. What is important for us now is how do we have inclusion? How do we ensure we create a level playing field? A lot of the youth, a lot of younger people in this country have given up on the system. They feel the system is rigged. They feel the system does not give them an opportunity. And then we now want to make laws that further supports and makes it difficult for them. I will not support that, and I think they did the right thing. Yeah, there might be some exceptional cases, but at the end of the day, you look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture, I think that section sends out is we must create a level playing field. And that's what it does.
Yeah, it does mean that, for example, a governor in the PDP is the only himself and the deputy governor are probably the only delegate. As far as the concern, all of his political appointees will not be commissioners and all of that, will not be able to come to the arena. Same with the president. And I'd like to make these, because there is a section where the drafters, this subsection, the drafters may be looking at that. For example, the vice president or the president will come into the arena with their retinue of their group or their appointees, and we have leverage over others in numbers of voting. But the other side to it is the fact that you have disenfranchised some other people, and perhaps the reason why the president wanted this to be amended. Which one is greater to disenfranchise? Because even in criminal law, I mean, you rather not disenfranchise people than look at other things that would be of injury to other people.
They have a choice.
That's the fundamental right of people.
But they have a choice.
To resign?
They have a choice.
At a convention, things like that.
It is not just an ordinary convention. It's a convention that is going to elect future leaders either at all levels. It is not just an ordinary prime. It's an important event.
Because if they feel at Congress,
if they feel strongly, strongly enough, and if the leader of that party believes that nobody else, I mean, even the thought, there's some bit of arrogance then. So we believe that the party does not have other people that can play that role apart from those commissioners and ministers who probably before they were appointed by ordinary party members. You see, let us not continue to, and this is what creates problem, where we give so much importance to political office. So everybody wants to have those political office. So you're saying in the state, with all due respect to everybody else, there's nobody else that a governor or a president would think can be a delegate apart from his commissioner or his ministers? I don't think that is right. There must be inclusion. But the moment you keep it to this small group of people, we're excluding people. And so my own is that if they feel strongly that they really want to participate, then they should resign and participate.
Because you have the experience, can you give us an insight into what can make up of a muscling? What does a political appointee of government has that can be a muscling, a power that over and above those who are not political appointees?
You know that a political appointee is not as independent as other political officers, other party members. That is factual. We've seen it. We've seen it in the past, and that is why when we review bills like this, we look at incidents from the past. We look at what has happened in the past. In the past, you tend to find out, I mean, I'm not putting blame on anybody, where commissioners in congresses or in primaries or gubernatorial elections will go with their governor because they believe that if they don't, maybe they'll get sacked the following day. Party office holders, my party members might be more independent. And you need that independency. You need that ability for people to come and really choose the right leaders. Why are we doing the primaries? What's the purpose? It's for us to be able to elect people that will serve us. For what purpose? For good governance. So if we're talking about free and fair elections, we must also be talking about free and fair primaries. primaries that ensure that the best person emerges, and people out of their conscience will choose what is they believe as is good for their state or their country. But if their candidates or their delegates that are being influenced because they don't want to lose their job, they don't want to hurt their bosses, then at the end of the day, we're not going to get the best result. But I honestly strongly believe this is the right thing to do. And I even think that the time we are harboring and discussing this section again shows some of the issues that we need to move away from in this country. Let's talk about the real value of that electoral act that ensures that you have a freer and more credible election, that ensures more participation, that ensures inclusion, particularly for that part of the population, the younger ones. Anything that doesn't tick those boxes to me are things that we must move away from. I hear you. And my point is that this was good. This was the right thing to do. If any of them feel strongly enough, they should be able to resign. Those that want to contest elections, they should resign.
People are already going to court to challenge the...
No, that's all part of democracy. That's their right. They can do that.
The courts have the power to...
Because we look at that. And we will accept whatever the court, we all have to accept whatever the court says. But that does not take away from the responsibility of the legislative arm of government in order to make those laws. And that's what they've done.
Are you of the view that perhaps the executive is muscling the National Assembly in some ways?
Well, I can't read their minds.
No, but because of the activities and the things that have happened in the past, in the past few months.
It's difficult for me to read the mind.
You think that this National Assembly is a rubber stamp?
You know, I've been asked this question many times, and my view as somebody who's previously headed that institution, I would like to leave that really to the view of Nigerians to comment on that. I think that when you leave an office, as a former holder of an office, I think there's protocol of the right things to do. If I have strong views about how the Night Senate is operating, I have channels by which I can speak that and speak to the leadership and talk about that. That is a subjective view when you say it's a rubber stamp. We all have different styles. The things they're doing I would not do. But that does not, those are two different things.
For those who are described and analyzed your time as the chairman of the National Assembly and the president of the Senate as such that had so much of fight with the executive arm of government. You really agree with them. You are always at loggerheads. And perhaps this National Assembly and the leadership have said, look, the Saraki led National Assembly at the time wanted to run it as an opposition to the executive, but they are willing to work hand in gloves with them.
No, that's not true. I think that was kind of propaganda that was out. When you say at loggerheads, if we stand for what we believe is right, the founding fathers that put through the Constitution, the kind of democracy we're practicing, it's checks and balance. If there was no need for us to check, there would be no need for us to have that legislative arm of government. It would be like the military, just the judiciary and the executive. The whole point of the legislative arm of government is to check on the executive. And when you check on an executive, sometimes you will agree, sometimes you will disagree. Now, if disagree is not an offense, to disagree does not mean that I am against you. That's my responsibility. I was sworn by the Constitution to do that. And we have to begin to understand the role of the legislative arm of government. And I believe that it's because it's the youngest arm of government. A lot of people don't understand the responsibility. So they believe that when we say no, the Constitution says, for example, for nominees, the executive would make a recommendation or a nomination subject to the approval of the National Assembly. So if the National Assembly in its wisdom says that person is not fit, that is not working against executive arm of government.
For those who have the view that your strong stance against some of the position of the executive at a time was tantamount to a political harassment. Were you harassed politically at the time, do you think?
Sorry, come on with
I mean, your stance, and you said you disagreed. I mean, when
Yes.
you led the National Assembly at the time, that you had some disagreement with the executive arm of government. And those who have criticized and analyzed your time there, they felt, look, your time there and your stance led to some political harassment of your person.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
Yes.
view it as such?
Well, I was definitely harassed. I mean, there's no doubt about that. That might be because of the position we took. But we are sworn Constitution to do what is right, what we believe. And don't forget, I'm one among equals, leading 109 senators. And my view and our view was look at the issues before us. And today you find out that most of the things we did then that were either rejected, some of them are being passed. There's some of the bills today were bills that were passed then. But executive chose, for whatever reason, not to assent to some of those. There are people that we looked at and felt that they could not be nominated. We could not confirm them. Today, most of the things we said at that time were right.
I'll take you quickly because we have a long
Sure.
list of areas to deal with. Quickly on the issue of Electoral Act, and I'll touch on
Sure.
the Constitutional Amendment. Are you proud of this new election law?
I'm very proud of it. So proud of it that every opportunity I get, I commend the CSOs that work so hard. People see the bill now as an electoral act now. And sometimes people don't know how long this work started. I'm privy to know that because I remember it was in 2020, as far back as 2020, September, October, where this work started. I remember I was called to give a talk. It was because of the COVID, and it was on Zoom, where the youth were talking about how do we participate. And I advised them. I said, you can't go, it's just like a football match. You can't go into a tournament if the rules are not against you. You've got to study the rules. I said, the rules as they exist with this Electoral Act that we have, that was amended, must be changed. And they started that. CSOs like Adopt a Goal, Initiative, Raising Your Voice, a number of them, all comprised of very young people. We must commend them. They did this work. They would never go tired of going to the National Assembly. They never go tired going to different stakeholders across the country. Because I know that a lot of people, particularly those in the ruling party, really didn't want this bill passed. It was the persistence, the energy of a lot of the young people. And that also says one point to us, that truly we have a youth population that can do anything when they set their mind on it. And we must commend them because there are many areas they have saved, I believe, by this act, our democracy. Because when you look at this act that we have today, truly creates an opportunity for free and fair elections. So I commend them. I cannot commend them enough for what they've done.
So you think that this can give us a good election?
Definitely. One, we've all talked about the issue of electronic transmission. More importantly, we've all talked about bringing technology into accreditation. Let me give you a typical example. Look at 2019 elections. The total number of people that voted in Borno State, despite its challenges in security, was more than the total people that voted in Lagos State. You can't explain that. And
do you think the election was rigged in that area?
I'm going by facts that a place that
you think it's not rational for that population to have voted.
And I'm going to put it down that I am pretty sure that come 2023, you're not going to see that. Because with technology now, you're going to see accreditation of people who actually turn up. So that gives a better opportunity of people to see their wish really come to reality. A lot of young people are giving up because they say, look, my vote does not count. But with these, both electronic transmissions prevent people from going to collation centers, changing the result sheet and announcing it. Because now the results are at the polling unit. And they're transmitted at the polling unit straight to INEC headquarters. So these two. Number three, also, there are certain sanctions to INEC officials, which again was not there before. Also, there are sanctions against violence. So these inclusion in the new Electoral Act is commendable. It puts up among about democratic countries with best Electoral Act. That lays the foundation for you and me to be able to vote who we want into office. It also means that elected officers know that with credible electoral law, if I do not perform, we can also vote you out. So the arrogance of power would dissipate because people will now know that they need to be accountable.
Yeah. So I'll take you to the constitutional amendment. Under the 8th Assembly, we saw what happened. But from the women bills, 5 of them were voted out. What's your view on that?
Well, it's unfortunate. I think, I'm told that one of the House of Reps has
rescinded decision on 2 of those bills.
I think it needs to go more than that. When you have those kind of decisions, I know that what should happen is that the House of Rep leadership and the Senate leadership should have had a discussion, because one arm doing it without the other, it just lip service, because they know that without the Senate as well rescinding, that is just to make people that were making a lot of complaint to think that, oh, they've got something. Nothing has been really achieved without the 2 chambers doing that. So it needs to go further than that. We must ensure that we have gender inclusion. It's something that we all must put all hands together. It is not, we're not doing the women population any favor. It is their right. It makes our country better. It is important for whether in chambers or party administration, that we get a perspective from across everybody. A population of women that accounts of close to 50%, and not have those level of representation, we're not even doing best for our country. So it's something that needs to be looked at again.
And I take few examples, 2 or 3 of them, of the situation in the country, because when laws are being made, they are a reflection of the society. You look at the security situation, the economic situation of the country, and the huge cry of some sections of the population about the issue of discrimination or not being included. And you look at it, this constitutional amendment process, do you, in your own view, think that it captured the situation of the country as it present is right now?
I don't think they captured everything, but there's areas where you've seen devolution of powers. You've seen items being moved from the executive to concurrent list, generation, distribution of power. You've looked at the issue of railways, transportation, you looked at the airports. Those are attempts to do that. You looked at the powers for judiciary autonomy. You've also looked at separation of offices between the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. These are attempts to do that. We need to have looked again on the issue of management of the VAT. That's something that, again...
That caused a lot of stir, though. I mean, we saw what River State government is doing with some other states who have gone to court against the federal government. What's your view on, I mean, you being a governor before, do you think that state has a right to collect VAT?
My view on fiscal federalism is that we need to do it, but we need to do it gradually.
Do it in the sense that state has to have more?
State has to have more, but we need to do it gradually, because we also, as one nation, we must also admit and accept that as a federation, we have responsibility for also maybe the weaker states, because there will be states, when you implement that there will be an imbalance or a shock to the system. So we must have a plan for that. So definitely it is the ideal thing to do. The question is, how do you implement it? Because in implementing it, you must ensure that there's stability in the country. So that's, the 2 must go together. So it's not just right saying that it has to be implemented like today, now. It must be implemented with a plan of how do you do that? How do you ensure that as you do that, states are going to lose out on those revenues? There must be a buffer to give them time to be able to build their own internal generation. Because that's key.
We need to take a break now. But when we come back, I'll take you into politics, 2023 and a few other issues. The conversation with Dr. Bukola Saraki will continue. And attention will be on 2023 presidential election, the issue of the zoning arrangement, the People's Democratic Party, and the big question, is Bukola Saraki running for president of Nigeria? We're going to ask that when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our conversation with the former Senate President and also former Kwara State Governor, Dr. Bukola Saraki, continues. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your time tonight. Before I go into politics, I'm very sure that when you were driving here, you saw a long queue of cars at the filling station. And I remember that you moved the motion on the floor of the Senate to where at your first time in the Senate when you were talking about subsidy on fuel.
Yeah.
And if you look at it and the investigation that come 2012, the protest on fuel subsidy, and now we are here today, we adulterated fuel and destroyed people's cars, and long queues that since existed for the last 2 weeks or so. What do you think is the problem? Is it a problem of consumption? Because you also raised it. Do we really know how much we consume as a people in Nigeria?
Honestly, I think it was 3 days ago, a few days ago, I did a video because I was driving and I saw the queues, and I was really moved to see how the pain, the frustration that people were going through because of the queues. It didn't need to be like this, honestly. Totally doesn't need to be like this.
Is there something we could have done differently?
Definitely. When I think about this, maybe because, as you say, I moved this motion 2011, there's anger when I think about it. If you remember in 2011 when I moved that motion, we're talking about then that we're consuming 30 to 35 million liters a day. And we said at that time that that was even too much. We took steps and made recommendations following my motion. And the then government under the Ministry of Finance, then it was Ngozi Kujawala, took certain steps that resulted in government seeing reduction in subsidy by about $500 million. Now today to say we're going to be spending $3 trillion, it's
not adding up from your own view?
It's not the adding up issue. Definitely it's not adding up. How can anybody see Nigerians go through this? Now I'm told that we consume 70 million liters here. It's not possible.
What do you think we could be possibly consuming right now?
We cannot be consuming more than 30 to 45 million liters.
So where would those,
there is no doubt that those liters of fuel are going across the border. And government is turning a blind eye. It's not possible. Impossible.
These people in government that are doing this?
Look,
the racketeer. I mean, you're saying that there's a possible racketeer.
It is not possible for us to consume, and for us to be helpless and say, oh, it's being smuggled, or it's going to West African. We can't do that. We can't. We must look at what Nigerians are going through. Look, I remember even in 2016 when I was Senate President, we had been able to find a solution to this. Then the Minister of State, Kachuku, was there. And with leadership of myself, leadership of the House and Senate, we sat down. And we got us out of this mess. With the buying of Mr. President, we were able to get out of the subsidy. I don't know what happened later on when it was reversed. Even if we have to have fuel subsidy, 50% of this can be saved. 50% of this can be saved. There is no way, I challenge him that we are consuming 70 million liters.
You think that some people are benefiting?
Don't use think. Don't use think.
Some people are benefiting from this.
I'm not thinking. 70 million liters is impossible. Now we're in danger now of going up to 6 trillion. 6 trillion on subsidy. Just because a few people are benefiting. This is a matter that requires government. You can't even wait for people. So nowadays everybody is in 2023 mood. This is something that cannot wait for 2023. Government now must take responsibility and hold people accountable.
If you have the power to change things, what would you do differently?
Definitely, we must change the way subsidies is being managed. We must ensure that the right people, the vulnerable people, get it. Not so also subsidize our neighboring countries. There is no, look, you drive around the petrol station. Do you see evidence of 70 million liters consumption? Don't forget, even in 2020 when there was lockdown, we're still claiming to have been consuming 50 million liters. How is that possible? We're not being fair to the masses. This is honestly. I feel, because I've spent time studying this thing, and I understand it. We must immediately stop the smuggling of products. We must be able to do a research, assess the true consumption. Egypt, in 2016, were in the same position with us. But they've used technology, they've used their identification system, plus smart card, to be able to, look, even if you want to give subsidy, let's do the sums. Over half of that, I promise you, is just wastage. And this is the kind of things that we must, when we say that for us to reset this country, we must put an end to this kind of thing.
If you were number one man today, who would you hold responsible for this so-called racketeering and smuggling and insincerity in the numbers?
It's not a question of holding. Government itself must be held responsible. It's not about an individual. Clearly, the point number one is that we cannot be spending 70 million, we cannot be consuming 70 million litres. We should be able to have a research that tells us, and if we're going to subsidize, then we subsidize at the actual amount that is possible. Look, when I was senator at that time, I even did research, got information from Lloyd's Register to look at vessels. Vessels that were meant to be in Nigeria were in other parts of the world. There is no way that vessels of 70 million litres daily consumption is staying in this country.
And these are perpetrated by highly placed people.
There must be, because there must be. It's not, and I think it's time that we really face this head on. It's not fair to Nigerians. But again, because now the crude oil price is going up, we're not going to benefit from it. Because as crude oil price goes up, the subsidy bill goes up.
All right, let me take you into politics. I'd like to ask you, are you running for president?
As you know, the last few weeks, I've been going around with the advocacy group, consulting with all the parts with the party members. We've been around North Central, been around the Northwest, going around Southeast, Southwest and Northeast very soon, communicating my interest to contest for presidency. But like anybody, when there are rules, there are guidelines. We're having a NEC meeting on Tuesday, hopefully, which I'm sure the guidelines will come out, which will tell us definitely whether, like any football match, the whistle will be blown. Short of anything there that stops an individual, I would definitely be announcing sometime before the end of the month my intention to vie for president. At the moment, we're just doing consultation. A formal declaration will come in due course.
So there's a strong possibility for you to run for the number one office?
Yeah, there is a strong possibility.
I've been asked this question severally.
Yeah.
You are Senator Abubakar Bukola Saraki.
Yeah.
Is Bukola Saraki a Yoruba man or a northerner or southwesterner? A lot of people seem to be very confused, and I understand their confusion. Kwara, North Central. You know the reason why I'm asking? Because in Nigeria's politics, people will ask the question, who are you? Which tribe do you belong? It's a wrong narrative to have in our politics, ethnicity and tribalism and all of that, but it's something that has shaped our politics, and we cannot run away from it. For tonight, are you Bukola Saraki or Abubakar Saraki? When I say Abubakar Saraki, you know what I mean.
I'm a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian for all Nigerians. I believe a lot of us in politics, we spend our time on these kind of conversations. But you know the real conversation today is the insecurity. The unemployment, a lot of our youth, 50%. Cost of living. Those are the conversations. And when I've done a lot of polling, talking to young people, you know what they tell us? That's what concerns us. For me, for this purpose, it's about being a Nigerian.
It doesn't matter where you come from.
I believe that what matters now, where we are today as a nation, that is what is important.
Because that question will be raised when the issue of rotation comes. Where you come from, they will be subjected. I mean, that conversation must be had at the party level.
Let's talk about that. Because people talk a lot about zoning. I'm not saying that zoning is not a criteria that must be considered when you talk about where power comes from. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in 2023, zoning and other issues must be considered. You see, in 1999, when the issue of zoning came in, if you could recollect, there were political imbalances, particularly coming out of June 12, 1993, that needed to be addressed. Some of those imbalances still exist, don't get me wrong. But today, as a nation, the challenge that we have is a defining moment in our history, where aside from where you come from, what also really matters today is how we're going to prevent our country. Some have been harsh to us and say that Nigeria is close to a failed state. We're not a failed state, but we're inching towards a failing state if we don't do the right thing. And those right things requires reform. We need to turn this country around. If you sample, the polling was only 86% of Nigerians saying the country is going in the right direction. We must address this issue. So as we address the issue of where you come from, we must also put that energy and address who and what kind of leadership do we need now.
So for
let me finish. When you talk about reforming a country, you need leadership that has vision. You need leadership that has knowledge. And more importantly as well, you need leadership that has courage. Because there are decisions that need to be taken that needs courageous leadership. And then you need leadership that can follow through the implementation of some of those issues. That is as important as some of the issue of zoning. And even when you talk about zoning, in our political party, for example, PDP, if you look at since 1999, out of the number of 16 years that PDP has had, 14 years of that has been in the south, 2 years in the north. But even leave PDP, look at the nation. At the end of 2023, we'll have had 24 years. Of that 24 years, 14 years of that is in the south. 10 years of that is in the north. So even if the presidency goes to the north in 2023, at the end of 2027, you've got so you don't even have a skewed imbalance. So my take is that every time in the nation's history, you look at the issues that are challenging us at that time. Yes, zoning is an issue, but more importantly, along with that, there are also issues that are as important as zoning, and they must be looked together.
People will also talk about the issue of competencies.
That's what I told.
Whether or not you have the capacity, you've been a former Senate president, and people will actually put it on a scale. When you were Senate president, what did you do? Yeah. Capacity. When you were governor of Kwara State, what did you do? If people put those on the scale, would you say that you are fit to become Nigeria's president?
Sure, I believe that I have what it takes to lead this country. As I said to you, that what this country requires now is a leader that knows what are the issues, and a leader that is bold and courageous and that can stand. I think my past history has shown that I'm not somebody who shy away taking up challenges. I'm not someone who does not know the issues. And I'm not someone who does not have the energy and vibrancy to address those issues. More importantly, these are things that I've been able to do. I'm somebody that can reach out across the political divide based on my antecedents. I'm somebody who can reach across the ethnicity divide. And I'm someone who can reach across the religious divide. You need those to unite this country today. To me, but again, I'm a party member, strong party and believe in the party. As I said, we're going into this coming week. We will see what comes out of the guidelines, and then a formal announcement will be made. But my issue is that yes, zoning is important. But don't also forget that as a party, when we're looking for a national chairman, one of the issues, some of the issues that determined it was that there was a quest for the best. It was a quest for the best that brought up the current chairman, Professor Ayu. And the consistency of that is that also for the presidency, there's a belief that also we must seek for the best. Because what this country needs now is the best hands in order to stop us.
There is a convention and a style that your party has adopted over the years. So wherever the leadership of the party is, the presidential candidacy goes the opposite way. The candidate, I mean, the chairman of your party is from Benue State in North Central. That means usually by convention, the presidential
you use the right word. You use the right word.
By convention goes the opposite direction.
You use the right word. You say usually.
Is that not playing against your chances?
No. You use the right word usually. I'm telling you that the times we're in this country now are not normal and usual times. That those factors that you use at those times were a country that had stability. We didn't have the security challenges. We didn't have this economic failure. We were not inching towards a country that there was real concern. Now, it would not be right, in my view, to shut out anybody that is possible that can make this country turn around.
Should your party zone the presidential to the south? Would you still throw your hat in the
I'm a party, and I abide by the party rules. Those are my positions.
But are you one of those who are of the view that the North Central region have been unfairly treated in the political?
Let me just go. You see, when you again talk about zoning North South, we're also not representing the truth. The real issue is that we've got to look at the geopolitical zones. It's not just about North South, because that's why I explained to you. If it's North South, it has been 14 years in the South, 10 years in the North. So if the North has it another 4 years, you have not cheated anybody. At the end of 2027, to be 14 North, 14 South, that's not where the issues are. Because when zoning was brought in, it was to ensure equity and imbalance. There are two zones today, since 1999, that have not had president or vice president: Southeast and North Central. So if you even want to talk about zoning, those zoning should be directed to those particular zones. I come from North Central, and those come from Southeast. So my conclusion is that it is not a straitjacket when you talk about zoning the way you define it. Yes, you must consider zoning, but when we talk about zoning, it cannot just be a issue of North-South, because you cannot tell me that the Southwest can say they have been disenfranchised in the possibility of political office. Neither can you say the South-South. But the reality today is that Southeast and the North Central have not had presidency or vice presidency. The Northeast can also argue that they've never had presidency. I mean, they've had vice presidency. So if you talk about the presidency, both Northeast, North Central, and Southeast. But I'm saying that today, where the country is, with the challenges before the country, we must bring in other issues. We did it when we wanted to look for the national chairman of our party. We went seeking for who we felt was the best that would help the party. That shows you the desire of our party to think outside the box and looking for the best. And you can see where our party is today. You can also compare it to the other party, where they are today.
But you are part of the founders of the other party.
And that's when we could not agree on our views. That's why I said I cannot be any longer part of this. Okay. And those are my issues.
Because they say all politics are local. Let me take you to Kwara State. I mean, your constituency, your direct local constituency. There was a popular political Otoge slogan which swept your political structure out of prominence in Kwara politics. Has your structure recovered from that or bounced back from that bloody nose you got in the last election?
Well, I have discussed this many times. I definitely believe that our party is very strong now. Definitely after an election, you learn your lessons. The results you saw in 2019 were a number of factors. The way the election was conducted, the outcome of the election did not, in my view, not totally reflect the views of the people. But at the same time, the people have had time in the last 3 years to be able to look at what we did while we're there to where we are now. And that is why you're seeing on a daily, weekly basis, people are leaving the APC. Some are coming to join us in PDP. Some are going to other parties.
Are you using the same slogan against them in the next election?
It's not, you know, ours is not about that. Theirs is just about propaganda. Ours is about really touching the lives of the people. Now, the Kwarans have seen that it was all about propaganda, not based on substance. The people who were not prepared for office. But at the same time, we ourselves, we've rebuilt. If you look at our party structure now, at the ward level, we've brought a lot of youth and inclusion. We have a lot of women represented. For the first time, you have a state organizing secretary that is a woman. It never happened before, apart from the and this is the first in most of the states across the country. So definitely, our party is much stronger.
In the side and who becomes the governorship candidate of the PDP in Kwara State, have you considered zoning because of the agitation in Kwara State?
In Kwara State, there's great agitation from one particular part of the state, who the last time so it was in 1993. You see, this is what I'm talking about. You look at the level of the political imbalance. So I'm preempting you, because a lot of people sometimes say, oh, there was zoning in Kwara. It's not, where you have a state that's not had since 1993, and the yearning for it is different from what happens at the national level.
So you're considering Kwara North?
Yeah, we are considering Kwara North
for the sake of equity and fairness.
Imbalance?
Yeah.
1993 to 2000, close to what? That's like 30 years. I think that
we just have about 30 seconds for us to close. And the question I'd like to ask, for those who believe the thought force and the alternative platform is saying both the APC and the PDP are one of the same, and they are failed Nigerians, what would you say to them as your final word tonight? 30 seconds.
My view is that there are people that can provide solutions to the problems of this country, given the opportunity. You have people that have the ability, the capacity, might not have been given the opportunity to be able to do that. I can speak for myself that everywhere I've been as a political, I always left it better than I found it. Whether it's as a governor, whether it's heading the governor's forum, whether it's the National Assembly. There are many people also like me. I think it would be unfair to use one paintbrush for everybody.
You don't think the PDP has failed Nigerians, or the APC has failed Nigerians, like they say?
No. At a particular time, PDP did a lot of good things for this country. It is normal it's not only in Nigeria. The electorate has a right to sometimes get tired of a party. It's not, whether you go to the US, a conservative who was there for many years, then Labour came back, then you're now back to the conservative, you say, so it's a prerogative of the electorate. Okay. So that does not mean that party has consistently failed. Now, I want Nigerians to have faith. PDP, we learned our lessons. We are organized our parties to show responsibility and democracy. We are in search of the best hands to turn this country around. And we're going to do it.
All right. Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, a former Senate President, a former Kwara State Governor, it's a pleasure having you on the program tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure being with you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimberley. Bye for now.